Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's K-E-S-H-W-A-N-I, Keshwani. I have been solving math problems, data sufficiency problems to be precise, for GMAT out of this book here, GMAT Review, the 12th edition. Official guide is what it is called, 12th edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You have to have the book in front of you in order to follow my work. The problem that I'm about to solve is the one that you're going to find on page number 273, data sufficiency problem number 5. If you have not watched the videos about the introduction to data sufficiency problems, go and watch it now. You'll find it helpful. This is where I explain what all of these answer choices mean, so I'm not going to go over them right now. The introduction that I'm talking about is a GMAT-12E for the 12th edition, data sufficiency intro. GMAT 12th edition data sufficiency intro. Make sure you hyphenate the whole thing, and then it will pop up right away. Go to YouTube and search it. That's all. Number 6. Number 6 is actually a quite straightforward, simple problem. All they're asking here is that they tell you that n is an integer. And number 6 is what we're doing here, not number 5. Number 5 is over and done with. Number 6. They're telling you that n is an integer. I hope you know what integer means. Integer is just a fancy way of saying a whole number. Integer is just a fancy way of saying a whole number. In other words, n cannot be 3.2 or 3.5 or 3 1/4. It's either 3, 4, 5 or -1 or -2. It's a whole number. Negative, of course, are also whole numbers. It's an integer. The question simply is n plus 1 odd? Is n plus 1 odd? Well, let's think about it for a second before we jump into the two statements. How can some number plus 1 be odd? For that to be true, n would have to be even. See? N would have to be even. If this is 2, then 2 plus 1 would be odd. If this is 6, 6 plus 1 would be odd. 6 plus 1 would be odd. But if n were odd to begin with, if n were odd, if n were 5, I say were because we are speaking hypothetically now. If n were 5, then 5 plus 1 would not be odd. But we are told that when you add 1 to it, it becomes odd. We are told that we have some number n. We do not know what it is. But whatever it is, we are told that when you add 1 to it, it becomes odd. Well, the only way that is possible is when n, the number that we are starting out with, is an even number. An even number plus 1 becomes an odd number. So n has to be an even number. So basically what they are asking you is, this is a very roundabout way. This is a very roundabout way of asking, is n even, is what they're asking. Let's find out what they tell us. Statement 1. Statement 1 tells us that, let's put down AD, BCE. And again, if you do not know what I just did here, as I said, go and watch the introduction. Always put down AD, BCE before you start the work. As soon as the data sufficiency problem pops up on the screen, that's what you want to do. The first statement tells me that n plus 1 is even. There you go. So rather, n plus 2 is even. Well, when is that possible? When is the integer plus a 2 would be an even number? When n is an even number. So first, for example, 4 plus 2 would be even. 10 plus 2 would be even. -6 plus 2 would be even. So the first statement does tell me that n is even. And that's what we want to know. This is n plus 1 odd? It's a very awkward way of asking, is n even? That's what they're asking here. And the first statement tells me that n is even because I'm told that when I add 2 to it, the number that I have is still even. And that is only going to be possible when the number that I'm starting out with is even. An even number plus a 2 will remain even. An odd number plus a 2 will remain odd. If you go in increments of 2, then whatever it is, it's going to remain. If it's odd, it's going to remain odd if you keep adding 2 to it. 3, 5, 7, 9, so forth. If it's even, if you keep adding 2 to it, it's going to remain even. And I'm told that when I add 2 to it, I get an even number. That tells me that this must be even. if n is even, then n plus 1 has to be odd. First statement is enough, is sufficient. The first statement is enough. That tells me that answer choice B, C, and E are impossible. It is impossible for our answer to be B in this problem because B would have meant that the second statement, only the second statement by itself is enough. Answer choice B means that's what that 2 is for. 1, 2, bang. That's our mnemonic. Mnemonic is a memory device. M is silent in a mnemonic. Look it up and learn it. It's a memory device. It's something that you make up to remember something. One, two, Ben is our mnemonic device. And what does B mean? B means, that's what this 2 is for. Answer choice B means that the statement 2 alone, only the statement 2 alone is sufficient to answer the questions. But we just found that 1 also works. If 1 also works, then the B is ruled out because B says only the second statement by itself is enough. Only the second one. That's the key part. The operative word here is only. Only the second statement by itself is enough. That's what B means. Well, that's not true because we just found out that first statement also works. So that rules out B. What does answer choice C mean? Answer choice C means exactly what it says here. C means both. But we do not need both statements to answer the question. We haven't even written a second statement here. The one statement by itself was enough. So that rules out C. We do not need both statements. And E means that neither of those statements are any good in answering the questions. But that is of course clearly not true because as we just established, first statement is just fine. Let's look at second statement. Let's see what the second statement does. The second statement tells me n minus 1 is odd. Well, there you go. Again, the only way you can have a number and you subtract 1 from it, an integer, and subtract 1 from it and becomes odd is when that number is even, which is what we're trying to establish here. Is n plus odd is same as asking, this is same as asking, is n even? That's what these two questions are the same. They are the same question. Which is what this answer. This tells me that n is even. That's the only way when you subtract 1 from it, it becomes odd. If you have an even number, 4 minus 1 becomes 3, 10 minus 1 becomes 9, so on and so forth. It's very simple. This will be odd, this will be odd, and so on and so forth. So that tells me, this second statement implies that n must be even, which is what we were trying to figure out. So second statement by itself is also good. Oh, that's very good. So the answer is not A, it is D. D, which tells me that either of those two statements by themselves, no, either is by itself, either is a singular. Either of those two statements by itself is sufficient. So answer the question that is being posed, which is n plus 1 odd if n is an integer? The answer is yes, we can answer that question. Is n plus 1 odd is same as saying is n even? First statement tells me that n plus 2 is even, so n must be even. If you add 2 to it, it remains even, n must be even. That's good. The second statement tells me that when I subtract 1 from it, it becomes odd. Well, if it becomes odd, then it must be even. So that's also good. The answer is D. I hope you found it helpful. If you wish to get hold of me for personal private tutoring, I do face-to-face tutoring, I do tutoring over the telephone, and I also tutor over the internet through Skype. If there is any way at all, in any aspect of your preparation for GMAT that I can help you, please go to my website at www.prep4 right here, prep4gmat.com, and send me an email. Or you can get hold of me through www.keshwaniprep.com. Alright? Thank you.